Tonight, are false confessions a real thing? And if so, why on earth would a person confess to a crime they didn't commit? Welcome to the second installment of True Crime Register, where I recap and examine cases from the American criminal justice system. I do my best to report each case accurately and mean no disrespect to any victims or the people that love them. Tonight's register is Linda Stangel. She snitched on herself. Let's get into it. In December of 1996, a headless body quietly washed up on the shore of the southern coast of Washington state. A search of the local databases didn't show anyone missing from the area that fit the partial description: male, Caucasian, and possibly aged 20 to 35 years old. For months, the unfortunate stranger that had floated up on the rocky shore amid golden branches of driftwood remained nameless until the police expanded their search to young men reported missing from surrounding jurisdictions. In May of 1997, the partial jawbone and fingerprints were matched to a 27-year-old man named David Wahl. He had been missing from the Portland area, some 100 miles away, for a little over a month. Wahl was reported missing by his girlfriend, 23-year-old Linda Stangel. The two had met working at Red Lobster and had been dating for just over a year. David was an Oregon native. Stangel was originally from Minnesota. The weekend of November 12th, the couple had gone to the Oregon coast for sightseeing and a little hiking. They had first gone to Seaside, then later that morning they arrived at Ecola State Park. Ecola State Park, by the way, is a hidden gem on the West Coast. If you've never been there, they've got whole herds of Roosevelt elk, some of the biggest species of elk in North America, just walking around, making it perfect for nature watchers and photographers. There's also Indian Beach, which is a huge spot for surfers in the summertime. But this was November. Nearly all of the vacationers had gone away, and the park was practically a ghost town. Linda had reported David missing early on the morning of November the 13th. She said that the evening before, David had grabbed a beer from their six-pack, opened it, and walked off on a trail by himself. She said she had waited and waited at the car thinking he would be back any minute, but it got later and later and darker. She had stayed in the car until daylight and then went down to the ranger post to get help. Linda then called Bev Jones, David Wahl's mother, to let her know what had happened. Search and rescue teams looked for David for 4 days, but their search turned up nothing except a single empty beer can. At the end of the search, Linda Stangel returned to the place that she and David shared, packed up her things, and quite a few of David's shirts as well, and headed back to Minnesota. The coroner wasn't able to determine an exact cause of death. The absence of his head was determined to be due to marine animal activity, fishes and such. But without a head, it couldn't be known if the cause of death was, for example, a gunshot or some other injury to the skull. He therefore relied on the police reports to fill in all the blanks. David was known to be a big beer drinker. The relationship with Linda was not very good and, according to friends and family, was in the process of ending at the time he disappeared. It was probable, according to the coroner, that David Wahl had been intoxicated and committed suicide by jumping from one of the cliffs on the trail. A death certificate was issued and the case was closed. But not for long. You see, Bev Jones never believed for 1 minute that her son David had committed suicide. She also didn't like Linda Stangel, didn't think she was right for her son. This was another trial that I watched live on Court TV. She thought the whole grabbed a beer and just disappeared story sounded way too fishy and convenient. She also found it odd that Linda Stangel would take so many of David's shirts with her when she moved back to Minnesota. Didn't she think that David would need some clothes when he eventually came back home? Bev Jones wanted Oregon State Police to have another crack at interviewing Linda. She thought that under the right kind of pressure, for example, If the police questioned her as a potential suspect instead of just a regular witness, Linda's flimsy story would fall apart. Of course, at this point, Stangel had already moved all the way back to the other side of the country. But Bev Jones had a plan. Now that they had David back, the family was going to have a funeral. They could invite Linda to the funeral and have a couple of detectives there waiting to talk with her. When she approached the police with her plan, they told her that there were a couple of things wrong with it. First and foremost, the case was closed. Second, they couldn't just work in tandem with Bev Jones. They're state police officers, not a private investigation team working for Bev Jones. They would need to convince the district attorney that there was legitimate cause for taking a second look.